Information surfaces about Charleston shooting suspect Dylann Roof, white supremacist ideology. There is a debate over whether the killings of 9 black church-goers should be called a terrorist attack. VOA's Victoria Macchi has more from Washington on why civil rights activists want that label to be used.
While Charleston buried its dead in the week after the church massacre, one word surfaced over and over again: terror.
Not random, but as a means of control, a way to terrorize and oppress.
The shooting follows a long history of race-based violence in the southern U.S. by extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan, which maintain active cells throughout the country and are linked to other attacks. Civil rights activist Mark Morial says the terror label is appropriate for Charleston.
When I think of terrorism, I think of violence in furtherance of a political ideology, violence in furtherance of deeply held beliefs that the victims are somehow inferior, substandard, a threat.
At the scene in Charleston, even non-activists invoke the term.
This is a serious act of terrorism on our nation, from somebody in our nation.
In the 20 years between the bombing of an Oklahoma City federal building by Timothy McVeigh, an American extremist, and the shootings in Charleston, also a domestic attack, the U.S. war on terror has focused on foreign threats. But since 2001, right-wing attackers, including white supremacists, have killed 48 people, nearly twice the number killed by those with jihadist motives, according to data from the New America Foundation. Former FBI agent Michael German.
Terrorism is always a politically loaded word. It's very important that there's consistency with that across the various ideologies, because otherwise it looks discriminatory, that violence by minorities is treated as more serious than violence against minorities.
Federal officials are investigating whether the Charleston shooting legally qualifies as terrorism.
Solicitor Wilson.
But the terror label won't mean a harsher sentence for Dylann Roof, if convicted. The 21-year-old already faces the death penalty. What's more, the president of the country's oldest civil rights organization, the NAACP, says while the shooting was a terrorist act, the gunman failed to terrorize the black community and the country.
If it was his purpose to in any way start a race war, he was successful in this respect. He started a war, a renewed war against racism. That's what he did.
Victoria Macchi, VOA News, Washington.
Now, for some perspectives on race issues in America, I'm joined by Mr. Douglass Sloan, a political analyst and former vice president of the D.C. branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Welcome to Africa 54, Mr. Sloan.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first, what are your thoughts on whether this was a terrorist act or not?
Well, I do feel that it was a terrorist act. As Mark Morial pointed out, a terrorist act is defined as violence to promote someone's political ideology. And this young man, Mr. Dylann Roof, who embraced and mentioned the Confederate flag, by the way, in his online manifesto, really forwarded that ideology of racism and white supremacy, and that he was going to start a race war, and obviously he wanted to invoke fear and terror in the hearts of black people in South Carolina. Now, for black people that have been living in this country, been in this country for hundreds of years, and survived slavery and Jim Crow, it's going to take more than one young man with a gun going on a rampage in a church basement to invoke terror. That's not going to scare black people in this country or worldwide. But I do believe there was a terrorist attack, and I do believe that it should be looked upon as such.
Now, whenever there are such acts, debates or discussions, conversations emerge, and now there has been, for example, the question of the Confederate flag. What, in your assessment, is going to come out of this particular act in Charleston?
Well, that's one silver lining in this storm cloud, that his attack and the fact that he mentioned the Confederate flag in his online manifesto regarding white supremacy the state legislature in South Carolina has stepped forward and said, you know, we must remove the Confederate flag from flying over any official state monuments. They moved it from the Capitol to a Confederate Civil War memorial years ago. But the flag should be taken down. The flag should not be part of the official business of South Carolina or any state. And the fact that this young man had so associated himself with this flag, and that the flag is a symbol of racism, no matter what Confederate heritage people and the sons of the Confederate War veterans want to say, this flag is associated with racism and with hatred. And I would say that the vast majority of black people in this country would view it as such. So in that regard, we are seeing states begin to step forward to remove the flag. Mobile, Alabama decided to remove the flag from its official seal. NASCAR, which is a very large private entity, no longer wants the flag flown at its official events. Governor Terry McAuliffe, who I know personally, said that he will now stop Virginia license tags that have the the Confederate flag on them. He will stop issuing those license tags. So we are seeing some movement in that regard to take this symbol of racism down.
Now, for our viewers overseas, they may be wondering, do we have such a serious race issue in this country? Do we have so many other groups of extremist groups that may be a threat to black people in this country?
I would, the first answer that comes to mind when you ask me that question is yes. there is serious racism in this country. Personally, I didn't see it. It never became as evident to me as when we had our first black president, Barack Obama. You know, it is then when I saw that there was so much racism in this country.
But obviously, it's a minority group among you know, the white population. Barack Obama was largely elected by a white majority.
Well, there's no doubt that it is a vocal minority. Let there be no mistake. If it was a majority, we would never have a black president. But that group became all the more vocal, shall I say. And the advent of social media helped to convey their racist message and hatred spewing forth on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. You know, the news travels so much more quickly now because we have so many more news outlets and social media that are coming forward and presenting us with this news. So I was never aware that there were so many racist people in this country, but of course it is a vocal minority that's just making a lot of noise now because they think that the country's being taken over, which of course is silly.
This conversation will continue. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sloan, for joining us today. Well, Douglass Sloan is a political analyst and former vice president of the D.C. branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.